But what would you say, like, what is like the most common mistake you see over and over again that people are probably making when it comes to just requesting a religious exemption for this time that we're in?
The biggest mistakes that people are making with their religious exemption is they are talking about the science and the medicine, and they are not talking about just their religious views. So it's extremely important. That's number one, is to not talk about all of the side effects, to not talk about the all of the data. Do not talk about Bill Gates. Do not talk about the World Economic Forum. Don't talk about the Great Reset. Don't talk about anything other than your sincerely held religious beliefs. The law is very clear. It's called Title VII, and there are only two simple things that need to happen. Number one is you notify your employer of the conflict between their policy and your beliefs. And you put them on notice in a letter. Now, Joel, some people have been very vocal saying, I don't believe in these exemptions. We have rights. We shouldn't have to ask for permission. You're not asking for permission. You actually are notifying them of your rights. So I agree with you. You are notifying your employer of your rights. That's no different than somebody coming up and maybe a stranger or whatever coming up, putting their hands on you. Like, whoa, hang on a second. Back off, back off. You're notifying them of your limits. Are you just going to let people assault you? No. And
Yeah.
this is an assault. So you notify them that you have a right not to be assaulted. And I think the other thing that trips people up is the word religion, and they don't like the word religion. I don't really like the word religion either.
Yeah.
I don't, I like the word faith. I like the word, I don't even like the word belief. It's a knowing. I know I'm
Mhm.
created by God. I know that God has a purpose for my life. It's not a hope or a belief. It's a knowledge. So the law uses the word religion. That's all. But it also says it can be your moral or ethical beliefs. So let's not get all wrapped up in that. Some people that have made headlines, that have walked off the job, they never invoked their exemption. They just said, I'm not going to do it and you can't make me. Well, I guess that's true, but that would be like you saying, I'm not showing up at work tomorrow and you can't make me. Yeah, but you're required to show up at work. And you're required to notify your employer of your exemption. So let's not get bent out of shape and use this as a way to belittle or demean those who are actually using a law and a mechanism that is in place exactly for this reason. So it's no different than if you showed up at work and you said, or you showed up at work with a broken leg, and you're going to say, oh, I got to take some time off because I've got this broken leg. I need to get off my feet. You're notifying your employer. Would you just not show up at work and then go on TV because you got fired? No, they're going about it the wrong way. So I am here to help those that want to go about it the right way. Notify your employer, state what the conflict is, and that's basically the same point. Is you notify your employer, you say this is against my religious belief or my moral and ethical belief because I was created with an immune system that I'm not going to fiddle with. And then number two, your employer is required by law. It's not an option. It's not a suggestion. It's not a maybe. There are two things. You notify your employer accommodates you, period. Now, the employers are either willfully ignorant or they are incompetent, they are inept, they are incapable of the they don't have the mental capacity to understand the law, or they are intentionally deceiving you, and it's likely a mix of all.
Can you share, just any major victories that stand out that you could think of? Maybe it's just those two, or is there anything else on the horizon that you're seeing? I'm curious.
OSHA, the ones that actually, if you talk to them off the record, they know that all of this is hogwash, as I call it.
Yeah.
And here's the beautiful thing. When OSHA was told by the president to create these regulations, these emergency regulations, and you read what they wrote, you can see that it was written really reluctantly by somebody who had to
Yeah.
do it under pressure. But here's the beautiful thing. Two things came out in that OSHA document that I don't know if most people caught. Number one, it clearly stated that if you are a work from home employee, you are not under any obligation to get this cooties cure. You don't have to take the needle. If you show up at work, if you work somewhere and nobody else is around, like I don't know, a janitor, you go to the workplace, but no one else is there, you do not have to get the needle. If you work primarily outside, you do not have to get the needle. This is the first government agency that has it on the record. Further, this is the best part of all, OSHA, a department of the federal government, has on the record that anyone, because of a medical reason or a religious belief, can be exempt not only from the needle, but from testing and from the mask. It is on the record. I have a letter. You guys can get that letter. I did a video all about it called Good News from OSHA, and that you should send to your employer if you are being harassed. You can get an exemption for the mask and the test, as well as the needle. Secondly, OSHA wrote these emergency temporary standards in a reluctant manner, as I mentioned. It immediately triggered a lawsuit, and this ruling now has a temporary injunction, meaning OSHA is under a court order to not enforce any of the mandatory, which I don't even like to use that word, the illegal measures relating to the needle. So that is a huge victory. There is also the federal government was told that they can no longer require this of federal contractors, and they can no longer require it for any of the hospitals.